Bill Gates. The name alone brings to mind visions of unimaginable wealth, innovation, and global influence. As one of the richest people in the world, he's known for his contributions to technology and philanthropy. But despite his immense fortune, there's one thing about him that might surprise you: his approach to everyday life. Now imagine this. Bill Gates, the man who has built an empire, walks into a car dealership. The kind of place most people visit to purchase their dream car, perhaps with some financing or a little negotiation. But Bill Gates is different. He's not here to haggle over prices or look for a deal. He's here for something much simpler: to buy a car in cash. It seems like a simple enough transaction, but when the dealer realizes who he's dealing with, things take an unexpected turn. You might think someone as wealthy as Bill Gates would be used to paying with credit or wire transfers, but Bill prefers the straightforwardness of cold, hard cash. And as the dealer processes this unusual request, the situation quickly shifts from routine to shocking. So, what happens when Bill Gates tries to buy a car in cash? The dealer's response might just surprise you. It was a typical day at the luxury car dealership. The showroom was filled with sleek, expensive cars, each one gleaming under the bright lights. The sales team was busy with customers, showing off the latest models and discussing payment plans. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Then, the door opened. In walked Bill Gates. It was impossible not to notice him. The man who helped revolutionize the tech world with Microsoft, a billionaire who could buy anything he wanted without a second thought. It wasn't every day that someone like him stepped into a dealership like this. The sales associate, busy with a client, paused for a moment when he saw Bill Gates. He instantly recognized him. There was no mistaking that face, the glasses, the familiar features. The associate quickly excused himself and made his way over to Bill Gates, trying to stay professional despite the shock of meeting such a high-profile figure in person. "Good afternoon, Mr. Gates." The dealer greeted him warmly, shaking his hand. "How can I help you today?" Bill Gates, without missing a beat, smiled and nodded. "I'm here to purchase a car. I'm looking for something special." The dealer, now more intrigued, offered to show him some of their best models. He assumed Bill Gates would be interested in one of the top-of-the-line luxury cars. But then, Bill said something that immediately caught him off guard. "I'm paying in cash," Bill Gates said calmly. Looking at the dealer with a relaxed smile, the dealer blinked, processing the information. Cash? For a car like this? It wasn't every day someone made an offer like that. But of course, he wasn't going to question it. Not when the customer was Bill Gates. The dealer, now fully aware of the situation, tried his best to remain calm. Bill Gates, the billionaire tech mogul, was standing right in front of him, ready to buy a car. But it wasn't just the purchase that made this moment stand out. It was the method of payment. Cash. Cold, hard cash. He led Bill over to one of the luxury models, a sleek, expensive sports car that practically gleamed under the showroom lights. "This is one of our best," the dealer said, gesturing toward the car. "Top performance, all the features you could ever need." Bill Gates nodded. He seemed unbothered by the grandeur of the car, almost as if it were a regular purchase for him, which, in a way, it probably was. He took a moment to look at the car, then turned back to the dealer. "I'll take it," Bill said simply. "And I'll pay in cash." The dealer's mind raced for a second. It wasn't uncommon for people to make large purchases in cash, but for someone of Bill Gates' stature, it was unusual. Most billionaires didn't carry around cash, let alone offer it for such an expensive purchase. The dealer thought for a moment, then nodded. "Of course, Mr. Gates. We'll get the paperwork ready," he said, trying to sound confident, even though a small part of him was still in disbelief. Bill Gates stood there, hands in his pockets, as the dealer walked over to the desk to begin processing the transaction. The dealer paused, looking at the price tag on the car. It wasn't a small sum. And yet, here was Bill Gates, offering to pay it all up front in cash. The dealer couldn't help but wonder why. Why would someone like Bill Gates, who could pay any way he wanted, choose to pay in cash? Was it a matter of preference? Or was there something more to this than met the eye? He didn't have time to think too long before Bill Gates spoke again. "I just prefer the simplicity of it," Bill said casually, as if he were explaining the most ordinary thing in the world. "No need for credit, no strings attached." The dealer was taken aback, trying to digest the situation. Bill Gates wasn't just a wealthy man, he was an enigma in this moment, calmly offering cash like it was nothing. The dealer stood there for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. On one hand, he had an eager billionaire in front of him, ready to buy a car. On the other hand, something didn't feel quite right. The offer to pay in cash was just too straightforward, too simple. It didn't match the usual way high-profile clients made such transactions. The dealer's mind raced. Was there something more going on? Was Bill Gates planning to make some kind of statement with this payment? Or maybe it was just his way of handling things. The dealer tried not to show his curiosity, but it was clear that this wasn't a normal sale. He cleared his throat and tried to get back on track. "All right, Mr. Gates," he said, "we'll get everything processed for you. Just need to verify the amount." Bill Gates nodded, looking completely unfazed. He was in no rush, enjoying the simplicity of the process. To him, paying with cash wasn't a big deal, it was just how he preferred to do things. But to the dealer, it was more than that. There were always questions when someone as wealthy as Bill Gates made an offer like this. Did he have some tax reason behind it? Was this some sort of stunt, a publicity move? The dealer, eager to find out more, but not wanting to pry too much, began the paperwork. He asked Bill Gates a few more questions, trying to keep things moving, while his mind tried to make sense of the situation. "Are you sure you want to pay everything in cash? We can certainly work out a wire transfer for you if that's easier." The dealer's voice was professional, but there was a slight hint of uncertainty. Maybe it was easier to process a payment through the bank. Cash, after all, required a lot more effort. Bill Gates smiled again, completely at ease. "No, I prefer cash. It's more straightforward, and I like handling things quickly. No fuss." The dealer paused, looking at Bill Gates with newfound respect. It was clear now that this wasn't about being flashy or showing off wealth. It was about simplicity. Bill Gates had always been known for his no-nonsense approach to life, and this moment was no different. He wasn't here to make a scene, he just wanted to buy a car in the most direct way possible. But still, the dealer couldn't help but wonder why. Why cash? Was there something deeper behind the decision? After all, Bill Gates had access to the best financial tools and methods available. Surely, paying in cash wasn't the most efficient choice for someone in his position. The dealer looked at Bill Gates once more, trying to understand, and although he couldn't figure out all the reasons, he knew one thing for certain: this was no ordinary sale. The dealer walked back to the desk, now holding a stack of paperwork, ready to complete the sale. He had everything in place, all the details worked out, except for one thing. Bill Gates' offer to pay in cash was becoming a bit more complicated than expected. As the dealer set the paperwork down and turned to make the final arrangements, something strange crossed his mind. He was about to handle an enormous amount of cash. Too much for the normal processes at the dealership. His office didn't have a way to process such a large transaction in cash. It wasn't something they dealt with every day. He took a deep breath and turned back to Bill Gates. "Mr. Gates, I'm afraid we might have a slight issue. The dealership doesn't normally handle cash transactions of this size, and we don't have a proper system in place for this. It could take a while to process the payment." Bill Gates, still calm and collected, simply nodded. He wasn't worried. "That's all right, I can wait." The dealer was surprised. Most people in Bill Gates's position would likely have been impatient, frustrated even. But not Bill Gates. He was completely at ease with the situation, as though he had planned for this very moment. "Perhaps you could just wire the money instead?" the dealer suggested, hoping to avoid further complications. After all, this was a huge amount of cash to handle, and it wasn't exactly something he could simply stuff into a drawer and forget about. Bill Gates didn't seem bothered by the suggestion. He smiled, shrugged, and said, "I understand, but I really wanted to keep it simple. Cash is how I do things." The dealer was taken aback. He had no idea that a billionaire like Bill Gates, someone who could practically pay for anything with a single phone call, would insist on paying in cash. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle. Bill Gates didn't want to go through the usual channels. He was making a statement of his own. The dealer tried to mask his confusion, but the moment had already taken an unexpected twist. It seemed that Bill Gates was doing things his way, and no amount of bureaucracy or systems was going to change that. The dealer, now feeling a bit flustered, quickly scanned his options. This wasn't an ordinary situation, and he was no longer sure how to navigate it. He had never encountered a customer like Bill Gates, and the whole thing was starting to feel more like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "We can work out a wire transfer if you're open to it," the dealer suggested again, trying to steer things back on track. "It's quick and secure. You won't have to worry about handling all this cash." Bill Gates listened carefully, nodding as the dealer spoke. After a brief pause, he looked at the dealer with a calm expression. "I understand. I'm just used to paying in cash, but if that's the easiest way to finalize this, we can do that." The dealer felt a sense of relief. Finally, a solution. It wasn't the outcome Bill Gates had originally hoped for, but at least they were on the same page. The dealer quickly grabbed his phone and started setting up the wire transfer details. He went through the motions, making sure everything was in order. As Bill Gates watched, he seemed unbothered by the shift in plans. He wasn't disappointed or frustrated. In fact, he seemed more relaxed than ever, almost as if the whole thing was just another minor detail in his day. To him, the method of payment didn't matter as much as getting the deal done. Within minutes, the dealer confirmed that everything was set. Bill Gates had made the wire transfer, and the purchase was officially complete. The dealer, still in a bit of shock, stood there for a moment, staring at the paperwork. He couldn't believe that Bill Gates, the man who could buy anything in the world, had just bought a luxury car, like it was the simplest thing in the world. Bill Gates stood up and shook the dealer's hand, offering a polite smile. "Thank you for your help. It was a pleasure doing business with you." As he turned to leave, the dealer watched him go, still processing the entire experience. It wasn't just about the car. It was about the way Bill Gates had handled the entire situation, effortlessly, calmly, and without a second thought. After the sale was finalized, the dealer stood there, still a little in awe of the whole experience. He had just helped Bill Gates buy a car, but it wasn't just the fact that it was Bill Gates that had left him so stunned. It was the way the whole transaction unfolded. No drama, no rush, no complications. Bill Gates had handled the entire process with such ease and simplicity that it almost felt surreal. The dealer had seen millionaires and celebrities before, but no one quite like this. Most people with that kind of wealth would have been high maintenance, demanding special treatment or a flashy display of their power. Not Bill Gates. The dealer couldn't stop thinking about it. How many other people would have insisted on paying in cash? How many billionaires would have simply walked away when things didn't go as planned? Yet Bill Gates hadn't flinched once. He remained calm and collected throughout the entire situation. Back in the dealership, the staff began to hear about the encounter. Word spread quickly among the team. "You won't believe who just bought a car," the dealer shared with his colleagues. Everyone was impressed, but they were also a little amazed by the simplicity of it all. For someone with so much wealth, there was no show, no grand gesture, just a quiet transaction. The dealer went home that night, still thinking about the unexpected twist in his day. It was a reminder that, even in the world of billionaires, sometimes the simplest choices leave the most lasting impression.